What is going on, guys? Back at y'all today with another fantasy football video. We are one day closer to the season starting. We are entering peak draft season, and we are incredibly excited. So, Gavin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Watching a lot of preseason football, which is kind of sad because, who likes watching third and fourth stringers? But
It
we are one
sucks.
day closer, like you just said. We have a lot of drafts coming up, a lot of decisions to make. But yeah, it's getting pretty exciting. What about you?
Yeah, man. I can't watch too much more Ben DiNucci without going insane. So, I'm excited for the season for sure.
A
I
hard knock star.
Oh gosh, yeah, I've literally had sleepless nights because I've had dreams about football. So I'm excited for the season to come in. I'm sure everyone is as well. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into today's video. We're going to be talking about 5 bold but reasonable predictions for the 2021 fantasy football season. As we enter peak draft season, we figured these would help you out. These are bold takes that differ from consensus, but are also takes we believe in, not just, throwing crazy shit out there like Skip Bayless. So with that being said, Gavin, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, so for my first bold take, I'm going to say Keenan Allen finishes outside of the top 12. So he's going to finish as a wide receiver 2. So before, you get your pitchforks out, you burn me at the stake, hear me out. So last year, he had a career year. He had tons of targets. He had a big share of that offense. But this year, he's being drafted as a wide receiver 9, which is still a wide receiver 1. And you're getting him in that mid-third round range, which is pretty rich.
Yeah.
But, my argument is with and without Eckler, he's a different player. So last year, without Eckler, we saw the great production. We saw 12 targets per game. And the games that he played with Eckler, he was just under 8.5 targets per game, which is still a good number. But, that 12 targets per game is what you're drafting him at right now.
Yeah.
And he's 29 years old. He has, it's kind of a misconception that he gets injured a lot. But, he has gotten banged up in the past. Yeah. So that could catch up with him. And also, Herbert's going into his sophomore year. We could see some regression there. But, I just think there's a good chance he finishes outside the top 12. And I may fade him a little bit this year.
Yep. No, I think that's reasonable. I wouldn't totally agree. I think he does have some touchdown upside, but also I think it's reasonable because there are so many good receivers that we think are going to break out this year. Like, there are so many guys going in that range. Not everyone can finish top 12. If we think CeeDee Lamb's getting in there, if we think Terry McLaurin's getting in there, if we think Brandon Ayuk gets in there, like, there's so many receivers. Yeah.
There's so many guys.
So it's not crazy to say that someone like Keenan might finish as outside of the top 12, maybe gets a little banged up. So yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. Also, we think with Brandon Staley coming in from the Rams, obviously the best defense in the league last year, with Derwin James coming back, Joey Bosa fully healthy, we think this defense is going to be a little better. Maybe they run the ball a little more. And yeah, I think what you said about Eckler is very concerning, because that's a very large difference between 8 targets a game and 12.4 leading the league targets per game.
And we've seen how Eckler plays in that offense. He's a pretty big focal point of the offense. We saw his blow-up games he had while he was healthy, which is kind of alarming if you're a Keenan Allen owner.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of Austin Eckler, that is a great segue to my, I'd say, biggest bold prediction this year. It's not that bold because everyone loves Austin Eckler this year, but I do believe it is bold to say that Austin Eckler will finish as a top 3 running back in fantasy football this year. Here is why. Everyone loves to extrapolate data in fantasy. It's, for these 5 games, Eckler did this. These 5 games, this player did this. Like, yeah, no shit. When you pick games, when you cherry pick games, you're going to, be able to get good stats for your guy. But we have a 17-game sample size of Austin Eckler without Melvin Gordon. And in those 17 games in this Chargers offense without Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler has 110 targets, 90 catches. He's been an absolute beast. And you might say, well, this is a different offense coming in with Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator from the Saints. He has said that Austin Eckler will play the Alvin Kamara role. And I just think that Eckler this year has legitimate upside to finish, he could finish RB1 overall, because when it comes to targets a game, Austin Eckler last year with Justin Herbert in his healthy game. So I'm removing the Bucs game when he got injured, and I'm also removing that first Chiefs game when Herbert was thrown in there just randomly. In games where they were game planned to have Justin Herbert as quarterback, Austin Eckler had 8.5 targets per game when he was healthy. That is an insane number for a running back.
You're getting a wide receiver 1 as your running back. Plus, he has rushing upside as well. That's crazy.
Yeah, those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. That is like Christian McCaffrey level. So we know he's going to get the targets and have the involvement in the offense. And just what if? Because the problem with Eckler, we've already seen him finish RB4 even without the touchdowns. He's never gotten the goal line work. What if Austin Eckler gets a little lucky this year on the goal line and gets 8 touchdowns? Is that crazy? I don't think so. 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 12
Yeah.
touchdowns. I
As a
mean,
running back one on the
yeah,
goal line.
like the sky is the absolute limit for this guy. We've seen him so involved in the offense. Joe Lombardi wants to use him, and I think everyone's excited to watch a healthy Austin Eckler play 17 games. It's ridiculous how
And
high his ceiling is.
I would say you're probably drafting him at his floor. I mean, in the bottom of
Right.
the first round, top of the second round, he has such crazy upside where you're going to get nothing but positive vibes from Austin Eckler this year.
Yeah, 100%. He just has the upside that someone like a Nick Chubb or Jonathan Taylor just doesn't. Because we played this game with PPR, and his involvement in the passing game is just unbelievable. So yeah, Austin Eckler, top 3 running back, locked and loaded for 2021. Super excited to watch him. What do you want to get to next? Let's see.
All right, I'll do my next bold prediction. I'm predicting that 3 rookie quarterbacks will finish as QB1s this year, finishing in the top 12. And I think those
Very
3 will
bold.
be Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson.
Okay. Why don't you
So, I mean, I know you mentioned it earlier. Like Jalen Hurts last year, we can all agree he isn't the caliber player of those 3 that we just named,
Yeah.
and he would have finished a top 5 QB last year if he played the whole season. And those guys are a lot better than him. And usually you'll see those early quarterbacks that are drafted. You'll see them drafted to a very poor team.
Correct.
Which, I mean, you could say the Jets, they aren't too good, but they're getting better. But Trey Lance is on a powerhouse Niners team. Justin Fields is on a Bears team that, I mean, they've always been competitive. They've always just been lacking that quarterback.
Correct.
And I know there's a big thing that just came out, like the big fantasy football thing. You want to draft the quarterbacks that can run and the running backs that can catch.
Yeah.
All 3 of those guys have the rushing upside that you like in a quarterback one for your fantasy team, and you could draft them extremely late in your drafts. Like I know you mentioned Trey Lance is going as the QB 19, Fields is going as the QB 17, and Wilson's going as the QB 25.
Yeah.
So you can take all of these guys in the bottom parts of your redraft leagues and just watch huge upside happen for your team throughout the year.
You're getting those guys basically for free. I mean, on like a really sharp site like Underdog, you're going to have to draft him in like the 10th, 11th round. But generally speaking, in your home leagues with your work friends or like school friends or whatever, you're getting these guys basically for free. And like you said, man, like we saw not Justin Herbert. We saw Jalen Hurts last year finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback on a horrible Eagles team with a bad O-line, bad coaching, and bad receivers. And he finished top 5. And guess what? Justin Fields and Trey Lance are inarguably more talented than Jalen Hurts is. So why can't, and they're going as QB 17 and 19 because we don't know that they're starting, but Jimmy Garoppolo has not played a full healthy season in 2 years, and the year before that, he tore his ACL. So Jimmy Garoppolo is never healthy. They drafted him 3rd overall. Even if he does stay healthy, I would not be surprised if Lance is in there by week 8. And Justin Fields, I mean, is there any front office that's under more pressure to win this year than the Chicago Bears because of how bad they botched the Mitch Trubisky thing? And like, I just think that there's a lot of pressure on them to get Justin Fields in there. And the second that Fields and Lance play, top 8 fantasy quarterbacks. I don't think that's that crazy. I mean, like you said, like every top quarterback, you fire off the top ones. Mahomes, Kyler, Josh Allen, all of those guys, they run. And Justin Fields and Trey Lance are very talented runners. And
now, let's not forget about Zach Wilson here, though.
Yeah.
I feel like we're talking about the other team. But Zach Wilson, I mean, that's a guy. The offensive line's getting better. They got Mekhi Becton. They drafted Elijah Vera-Tucker this year. His backside's going to be protected. They added Corey Davis. They drafted Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Herndon. We'll see.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, they're going to let him out there, and he's going to throw the ball a ton, and he's just going to have so much upside.
And he also runs too. Let's not call him sneaky athletic, a little racist there. But he runs too, and he's got a big arm, and they're going to pass a lot because their defense is not very good. So absolutely, you're getting these quarterbacks like for free. And if you do decide to fade the quarterback position and build a strong receiver core or a strong running back core or draft a tight end early, whatever, take Justin Fields. Take Kirk Cousins to start for those first 6 weeks, and then throw Justin Fields in there by week 6. You have a top 8 quarterback that you drafted for free. I think this is the easiest way to win fantasy this year, is drafting these rookie quarterbacks, put them in, locked and loaded, top 10 quarterbacks. I really like that take from you, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a very similar contrast to Justin Herbert last year. Like a pretty powerful offense, and they just fit him in there. He's an athletic quarterback. Yeah. I see the same thing with these guys, if not a higher ceiling.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree there. That's one that will win a lot of people some leagues this year. So let's get into, what's my next one? Let's get into a more reasonable take here. I think Calvin Ridley is probably the safest pick you can make in fantasy football this year, and here is why. He's coming off a season with 90 catches, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns as a 25-year-old receiver after 2 straight seasons of over 800 yards coming into the league. I know he came in a little older, but his age-adjusted production, the second he stepped on the field, he's been a bona fide stud. And now you remove Julio Jones. I just think that like what's there not to like about Calvin Ridley? He's a bona fide stud as a route runner. You exit Julio Jones, enter Kyle Pitts, who is not going to get the same target share Julio Jones is. Are we really hyping up Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus and Quadre Allison, guys? Like, do we really think these guys are going to do anything? This offensive line still isn't good. The defense is still not very good. Enter Arthur Smith, who led one of the most efficient offenses in Tennessee. I just think people are overthinking Calvin Ridley, and he's one of the safest picks you can make at the end of round 2 if you lock in like a Dalvin Cook or a Christian McCaffrey, and Calvin Ridley falls to you at the end of the second round. I think he's such a safe, good pick in fantasy, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. We saw him last year. He was a bona fide wide receiver 1. This year we've seen him, and I don't want to put too much light on the preseason training camp stuff, but we've seen him go in those practicing against Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. We've seen him cook those guys up, and I mean, I have no reason to believe that he won't do the same thing this year, if not more than what he did last year.
Yeah. Okay, and we're back. Had some technical difficulties, but we are good to go and ready to get it right into the next prediction. So I'm going to start talking about Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Philadelphia Eagles. I think this one is another one of these little arbitrages, you could call it, in terms of value of rookies in when you would compare it to the value that if a veteran was projected the volume that Devontae Smith was, I think he'd be going a little higher. And my take on Smith is that in fantasy football, you chase volume and you chase talent. You chase opportunity, you chase talent. That produces good fantasy results. Well, we know Devontae Smith's talented. No one would argue that. I mean, he went 10th overall, and he won the Heisman Trophy, one of the most productive college seasons of all time. And opportunity. Who else is there in Philadelphia? I mean, Jalen Reagor is like apparently not even starting. They're saying Quez Watkins is going to start over him in the slot, which, I mean, no disrespect to Quez Watkins, but that isn't really as much of a plus on Quez Watkins to me as a red flag on Jalen Reagor. So, again, there's no other receivers in that room. Travis Fulgham is on the roster bubble, apparently.
Wait, hold on. Before you get it all into that, what was your hot take?
Good call. Devontae Smith finishes as a top 20 wide receiver. He's currently going as wide receiver 34. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, the take is Devontae Smith is finishing as a top 20 wide receiver. And you could get him in the 8th, 9th round as like a wide receiver 4. And yeah, man, I just think that like these reports that Travis Fulgham's not going to make the roster and Quez Watkins is starting, like it just tells me that there's no other receiver in this room you're worried about. The defense isn't good. I don't think anyone thinks the defense is very good. They're going to be playing from behind, throwing the ball a lot. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith have that connection from Alabama. I just think that this one's very easy to see how he can finish top 20. I mean, he's very talented, lots of opportunity. Anything else you want to throw in there on him?
I would agree. I mean, similarly to what we said in our last video about Smith, like the volume is so crazy. Like,
yeah,
there's so many opportunities for him to blow up this year. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing like NFL social media post highlight videos of him every single week, just like torching guys. And that defense, that whole team's bad in general. That they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be on offense a lot of the time. So you're going to see a lot of volume from Devontae Smith, and that's something that you would love to have as your wide receiver 2, and you could draft him as a wide receiver 4 or 5 this year. So
for sure,
there's crazy value there.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Clay for ESPN, he projects pretty conservatively. He has Devontae Smith projected for 110 targets, getting that in the 9th round. I would say you could push for 130, dare I say 140. And you mentioned the volume. Once again, with the talent, I mean, the guy has great ball skills. I think he's going to be pretty damn good in the red zone. Great route runner. Don't need to tell you that. You've seen all the clips. And yeah, I think Devontae Smith is in line for a really good season.
Yeah, he's got the talent, the draft capital, and the volume, the projected volume to be a sub.
Yeah, 100%. I think that about wraps it up for our 5 main bullet predictions. So to summarize, we have Keenan Allen finishes outside the top 12 at the wide receiver position. We have, in kind of concurrence with that, we have Austin Eckler finishing as a top 3 fantasy running back. We have Calvin Ridley finishing as a top 3 receiver. Very safe pick there, I believe. Devontae Smith finishes top 20 at the wide receiver position, despite going outside the top 30. And we have 3 rookie quarterbacks potentially finishing as top 12 fantasy quarterback ones. So why don't we throw in a couple of honorable mentions? You want to go first?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the last video, TJ Hawkinson, I could see him finishing as the top 3 tight end, just with the huge upside at the volume argument. And he's going to have Goff this year, which Goff made in that offense with McVay, made Higbee a tight end 1. Yeah, Higbee was, after that 1 year. And then this past year, his draft capital was pretty high in fantasy football.
Yeah.
And I think Hawkinson's a lot better than Higbee is, and you could see a lot of things from Hawkinson this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes the top 3 tight ends, especially with Kittle's injury history, Kelsey getting up there in age. I think Waller's a pretty locked-in stud, but yeah, I think Hawkinson will be a top 3 tight end.
Yeah, I think if any tight end's going to do it, it's Hawkinson for sure. He's going to have a really high projected target volume. No other real weapons there. We don't even know if DeAndre Swift's playing. Hawkinson for sure. He's been impressing in camp, like that pick for sure. And I'll throw in one here. Little homerism, but I do think it's a good pick. Corey Davis finishes as let's say a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. I don't think that's crazy to say. I mean, so let me pull up this stat. It's pretty crazy. Like, you wouldn't believe that it's real. But Corey Davis last year was 4th overall in yards per route run, which is just an efficiency metric, basically how good the guy was, behind Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, and George Kittle. That's the list of players who are more efficient than Corey Davis last year in terms of yards per route run. The guy was absolutely amazing in Tennessee with that play action offense. Allow him to work deep over the middle where he's best, allow him to get some yards after the catch. And guess what? He's going to Kyle Shanahan's scheme. Same sort of thing, Mike LaFleur. And he's going to be running a lot of play action, going to be allowed to work over the middle, use his body. And I just think Corey Davis is just like a locked-in value. I think he's a pretty good football player. He's 26 years old. No, he never lived up to that, 5th overall draft capital. But Not yet. Yeah, maybe we get a little 26-year-old breakout. But yeah, man, I think he's going to be this team's wide receiver 1. I think we're maybe a year away from the Elijah Moore total takeover. And I think they can support 2 relevant wide receivers, by the way. I mean, you mentioned earlier about Zach Wilson. The volume's going to be pretty high with this bad defense. And I think Corey Davis, I don't know why McCole Hardman's getting drafted ahead of him. Who else? Darnell Mooney, Michael Thomas. Really? I just think Corey Davis is going to be very large value this year at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the big thing I've mentioned so far is volume, and you see a guy like Deontay Johnson, who
last year
not even close to as skillful as Corey Davis, I would say, and he gets such crazy volume. So if Corey Davis can get similar volume as a wide receiver 1 for the Jets, I think his talent will project him higher than what you get from a guy like Deontay Johnson. Yeah. And getting him in the 9th, 10th, 11th round of your fantasy drafts, when you're getting a guy like Deontay Johnson in the 5th, 6th round, that's a crazy value right there.
Yeah, for sure. Just all the more reason to hammer running backs early, maybe get an elite quarterback, grab a tight end, because Corey Davis going this late is absolutely great value. And also, you don't want to buy into preseason too much, but in the limited action we've seen with Corey Davis in a Jets uniform, he has been extremely heavily targeted. I'll throw the graphic up on screen right now, but yeah, in the only action we've seen him thus far, he's been really good. So I'm excited for the season to come and see him in action in a Jets uniform.
Yeah, I felt there's a lot more pride and kind of hope for Jets fans this year, if not the next year.
Yeah, for sure. I think that about does it for us. We got 5 good bold predictions, a couple of little honorable mentions. Long story short, draft Austin Eckler, draft TJ Hawkinson, draft Corey Davis. You might win some fantasy leagues this year, for sure.
Get those late round rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, and draft Justin Fields, draft Trey Lance, draft him in every single freaking league. And yep, that's about it, guys. We will see you all in the next one. Hope you all have
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, hope you all have a nice day.